Hey everybody, I'm Mike, this is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching the Right of the People single shot, where it's you, me, and whatever stripped my trigger today. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation. Hey everybody, I'm Mike, this is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and this is a Right of the People single shot. It is Monday, February 17th. This is Monday, right? No. Yeah, it's Monday, February 17th, 2021. Got my days mixed up there for a minute. Sorry about that. Just so mad about what we're going to be talking about. You know, freaking... Is it Monday? Shit, I don't even know what day it is. Let me look. Yeah, it is Monday, February 15th, 2021 at 10:17 p.m. Good God. It's been one of those weeks, folks, and it only just started. Yesterday, our wonderful sniffer-in-chief, Joe Biden, decided to dance in the blood of the victims of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting in Parkland, Florida, and use the occasion, the anniversary of the occasion, to call for more gun control because, you know, if something doesn't work, we just need to do more of it until it does work, right? Yeah. That's always wonderful. Hello to everybody, you know, all 6 of you who are out there in the chat. Oh, 5, because I lost one. Ha-ha! Got Johnny H out there, Bo Weevil, 2 Live Moo, and Gun Lover Grandpa. Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, nobody seems to want to hop on. Well, if you got a link, folks, hop on in and let's talk about this. Rob Slagle is out there, says there's still a 60-vote filibuster in the Senate. 2A isn't going anywhere. Well, Rob, I have to tell you that assumes that none of the wishy-washy, milquetoast, lily-livered, jelly-spined Republicans, in name only, the rhinos, flip for something. That assumes that the Democrats don't shove gun control into some sort of omnibus spending bill, like maybe a defense appropriations bill, that just has to pass so that the jelly-spined, weak-kneed, lily-livered, milquetoast rhinos have cover to vote for it. That assumes that someone like Mitt Romney doesn't want to go ahead and compromise and pave the way for gun control. So that assumes that all that doesn't happen. And that also assumes that they don't just say to hell with it and kill the legislative filibuster like they've threatened to do. They've promised that they don't. They promised that they won't. But who knows? Of course, it also assumes that Joe doesn't go ahead and do backdoor gun control via executive fiat through executive orders and regulatory schemes, you know, like the ATF. But before we get into all of that and we talk about all that other stuff, I'd like to welcome the irascible yet lovable Squibload to the show. How you doing, sir?
I'm irascible tonight.
Good. That's what we need, is irascibility for this issue. So that's awesome. Got a couple more people coming in. Dead Horse, Clint Torres, and Tatas are out there in the house. Rob Slagle says, and H.R. 127 gets introduced every year by that crackpot and never makes it out of committee. They know it's unconstitutional. I know they know it's unconstitutional, but they don't give a damn about it. That's the thing. You have to remember, as I talked about Friday, don't know if you saw the show Friday. If not, go back and check it out, because there's a part where the Las Vegas Sun published an interview that was done a year ago with Joe Biden, where he specifically said that one of the tactics they're going to use is to take parts of these giant bills and slip them into bills that have to pass. Things like, the stimulus bill, things like defense bills, things like budget bills, things that have absolutely nothing to do with gun control may have pieces of gun control inserted into it just so it'll pass. Clint Torres says Marco Rubio is one to watch. Yep, Captain Tiny Hands himself is definitely one to watch. So what am I talking about? What am I going off about? What am I blathering about here on a Monday night, right? On President's Day even. What am I blathering about? Well, if I could pull it up, I'm blathering about this. Pardon me, this is a piece from Fox 8. On Parkland anniversary, Biden calls for tougher gun laws. By Associated Press, posted February 14, 2021. Tallahassee, Florida. Sorrow reverberated across the country Sunday as Americans, including President Joe Biden, joined a Florida community in remembering the 17 lives lost 3 years ago in the Parkland school shooting massacre. In seconds, the lives of dozens of families and the life of an American community were changed forever, Biden said in a statement released Sunday. The president used the occasion to call on Congress to strengthen gun laws, including requiring background checks on all gun sales and banning assault weapons. There was no time to wait, the president said. We owe it to all those we've lost and to all those left behind to grieve, to make a change. The time to act is now. Governor Ron DeSantis ordered flags be lowered to half-staff from sunrise to sunset across the state to honor those who perished when a former student of Marjory Stoneman Douglas opened fire on campus with an AR-15 rifle on Valentine's Day in 2018. When the gunfire ended, 14 students and 3 staff members were dead, and 17 others were wounded. The suspect, Nicholas Cruz, is still awaiting trial. In his proclamation for a day of remembrance, DeSantis asked fellow Floridians to pause for a moment of silence at 3 p.m. Sunday. The Parkland community is resilient in the wake of tragedy, reminding us just how strong and united Floridians can be in the face of such devastating loss, the governor said in his proclamation. The Republican governor also noted some of the school safety measures enacted since the tragedy 3 years ago, including money to install panic alert systems at schools across the state and to strengthen programs meant to prevent violence before they occur. The panic alert measure was dubbed Alyssa's Law in honor of 14-year-old Alyssa Alhadeff, one of the students killed 3 years ago. But critics say the governor and Republican-controlled legislature have done little to keep guns away from potentially bad actors and have opposed the ban of assault-style weapons. The passage of time has done little to heal the heartbreak we felt upon hearing the shocking news 3 years ago today, nor dulled our sense of outrage at the lack of consequential legislative action from lawmakers since that horrible morning. Laws that would prevent another Parkland from ever happening again, said Manny Diaz, the chair of the Florida Democratic Party. It remains to be seen what will be done on the federal level, despite Democratic control of the White House and both chambers of Congress. This administration will not wait for the next mass shooting to heed that call. We will take action to end our epidemic of gun violence and make our schools and communities safer, the president said in his statement Sunday. In addition to background checks and an assault weapons ban, Biden is calling on Congress to outlaw high-capacity magazines and make gun manufacturers liable for the role their products play in violence. For 3 years now, the Parkland families have spent birthdays and holidays without their loved ones, Biden said. Today, as we mourn with the Parkland community, we mourn for all who have lost loved ones to gun violence, he said. Over these 3 years, the Parkland families have taught all of us something profound, the president continued. Time and again, they've showed us how we can turn our grief into purpose, to march, organize, and build a strong, inclusive, and durable movement for change. So that's what Fox 8 reported as on the president's statement. Let's go ahead and take a look at the president's statement itself. This is from whitehouse.gov. Statement by the president 3 years after the Parkland shooting, from February 14, 2021. 3 years ago today, a lone gunman took the lives of 14 students and 3 educators at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. In seconds, the lives of dozens of families and the life of an American community were changed forever. For 3 years now, the Parkland families have spent birthdays and holidays without their loved ones. They've missed out on the experience of sending their children off to college or sending them on their first job after high school. Like far too many families, they've had to bury pieces of their soul deep within the earth. Like far too many families, and indeed, like our nation, they've been left to wonder whether things would ever be okay. These families are not alone. In big cities and small towns, in schools and in shopping malls, in churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples, in movie theaters and concert halls, on city street corners that will never get a mention on the evening news. All across our nation, parents, spouses, children, siblings, and friends have known the pain of losing a loved one to gun violence. And in this season of so much loss, last year's historic increase in homicides across America, including the gun violence disproportionately devastating black and brown individuals in our cities, has added to the number of empty seats at our kitchen tables. Today, as we mourn with the Parkland community, we mourn for all who have lost loved ones to gun violence. Over these 3 years, the Parkland families have taught all of us something profound. Time and again, they have showed us how we can turn our grief into purpose, to march, organize, and build a strong, inclusive, and durable movement for change. The Parkland students and so many other young people across the country who have experienced gun violence are carrying forward the history of the American journey. It is a history written by young people in each generation who challenged prevailing dogma to demand a simple truth. We can do better, and we will. This administration will not wait for the next mass shooting to heed that call. We will take action to end our epidemic of gun violence. Somebody please mute up, and make our schools and communities safer. Today, I'm calling on Congress to enact common sense gun law reforms, including requiring background checks on all gun sales, banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, and eliminating immunity for gun manufacturers who knowingly put weapons of war on our streets. We owe it to all those we've lost and to all those left behind to grieve to make a change. The time to act is now. And of course, she couldn't be left out. The Speaker of the Drunks, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, had this to add because, she had to glom onto this. February 14th, Pelosi's statement on 3 years since Parkland shooting. Speaker Nancy Pelosi issued the following statement to mark 3 years since the shooting in Parkland, Florida at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. 3 years ago, our nation watched in horror and heartbreak as 17 beautiful souls were stolen in an act of unspeakable terror and gun violence at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Today, we continue to grieve and work with the Parkland families and survivors who have turned their pain into courageous action, inspiring a movement across the country to say, enough is enough. Last Congress, moved by the daily epidemic of gun violence and guided by the millions of young people marching for their lives, House Democrats took bold action to save lives and end the bloodshed by passing H.R. 8, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act, and H.R. 1112, the Enhanced Background Checks Act. Now, working with Democratic Senate and Biden-Harris administration, we will enact these and other life-saving bills and deliver the progress that the Parkland community and the American people deserve and demand. On this solemn remembrance, Democrats join the American people to renew our commitment to our unfinished work to ensure that no family or community is forced to endure the pain of gun violence. We will not rest until all Americans, in schools, in the workplace, in places of worship, and throughout our communities are safe once and for all. So this circles back to something I've said since the beginning of this show, since I very first started doing this live stream and now podcast. And that's that these people, these Democrat politicians, will waste no opportunity to turn tragedy into furtherance of their agenda. They want you disarmed. And they know they can't do it via winning in the realm of ideas. They know they can't argue the logic. They know they can't argue the constitutionality because the logic isn't there, and the constitutionality for what they want certainly isn't there. The only thing they can do is tug on your heartstrings and manipulate your emotions to get the result that they want. And that's what they do. That's what they've been doing. I've got something else to add to this, but I'll let my panel weigh in first. Brokaw, welcome. Is there anything you would like to say in response to this garbage from Pelosi and Biden?
Man, I want to apologize. I'm sorry. I was out there shoveling, I'm trying to get on top of the snow, man. Yeah, we're almost up to 5 feet of snow, man, and I'm just getting worn out from it. So I apologize. I forgot to mute.
It's all good.
I just got off of Instagram with a giant rant about
I saw.
watching fellow. Let me do it. Fellow community members talking about Phoenix Ammunition and their stance on not selling ammunition to Joe Biden voters. Rob Pincus sat on there and said we should accept these people in society. No, we should not. We knew what Joe Biden was about. If you voted for Joe Biden, you voted for gun control. This is Joe Biden's agenda. He has said this on a national stage. This is not anything new. This is the positions he was always going to take. He said it. He said it in interviews with the CIA operative Anderson Cooper. He said it with all these people. That's his agenda. This is nothing new, but yet this is more propaganda to put into the hearts and minds of these so-called, doing air quotes again, these liberal gun owners, that this is common sense. It's not. This is an infringement. When you buy that firearm, that gives you the freedom to protect yourself, your family, and everything that you own, all the crap around you. That's what it's for. That's why the founding fathers put it in there. And this man is a crazed lunatic. Any man that sits on there and signs 43 executive orders, and 43 of them basically do not make any sense and do not help the common society, the common man, woman, and child, should really open your eyes. This is what you signed up for when you voted for this man. He's a treacherous human being. He's been like this throughout his whole entire politic career. Just go YouTube it, Google it, or whatever piece of search engine that you want to use, and you can see his blunders, and his stupidity over his whole entire career. And now this man has an opportunity to pass something out of his quirky, stupid letter that he wrote. Him and Nancy Pelosi have power to change the way the Second Amendment is interpreted from what we have been living with for the last 200 and some odd years. And it's a constant struggle. But when I see other people touting that we should accept this, I say no. When everybody runs out there and says, shall not comply, this is what I mean by shall not comply. I will not comply on anybody that voted for this man to accept them in my circle, in my society, in my community. I will not, and I will always push back. This man has been doing this for quite some time. He's got a lot on his plate right now. Gun control, I said it in my last video. You know, it's not his main priority right now. But as soon as he gets a handle on the economy, because he's hemorrhaging jobs, the CV-19, and figures out what he's going to do with that, I'm going to tell you, this is going to come down the pipeline. Something that they will pick out off of all these bills that all these representatives and senators are putting forth at this point. They have a drawer, they open it up, and they start picking it up and throwing it in parts of this country. And this is another strong example of Joe Biden encouraging these weirdos. What was that lady's name that introduced 127?
Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah, her. She did this last year. I think it was 4081. Same thing, just different verbiage in it in that bill. But he's still giving these people the confidence now that they have control of all three branches to implement this. And I think it's wrong, and I think that man is out of control.
Squib, do you have something to add to Roll Call's thoughts?
I guess not.
Okay. Well, let's see what they're saying out in the chat. Let's see. Bunch of hellos. Had a couple more people come in. Clint Torres says, anyone think the uptick in violence might have to do with demon rat DAs letting every offender walk? Possibly. Rob Slagle suggests let's ban automobiles, hammers, knives, and alcohol for all those deaths, too. Let's see. Seven Wonder says, I think we should ban socialists, Marxists, and communists. He also says, seriously, you simply cannot say or spell Pelosi without POS and lie. Fact check me. For Conservative says, Trump haters gave us this. I can't argue with that. Seven Wonders is talk. M. Gabriel's like, is it last night? What day is it? Seven says, I'm not sure. I know it's the fourth week of the most serious fight for freedom that Americans have faced since the Revolutionary War. Yeah, I can't argue with that, and I can't argue with what Clitoris just said, that the goal is to destroy the middle class, disarm us, and make us dependent slaves. Ding, 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 ding. That is precisely what it is. Here's my take on this. I think that it's exactly as I said earlier. I think that Mr. Slagle was right as long as everyone in the quote-unquote conservative camp stands fast. This isn't going to go anywhere. But if they get people to flip, like Rubio, who is likely to flip on the gun issue, and others, then we might be in trouble. If they decide to nuke the legislative filibuster, which they've said they weren't going to do, but I don't trust their word when it comes to things like that, then we're in trouble. I think that we, as concerned citizens, must be vigilant and must discuss these issues. We must spread the word and share the word whenever we hear about these things. We have to have these conversations to let each other know what's happening. We must guys, anyone who's watched the show before and who has seen the end knows that I say every week that we have to contact our Congress critters and elected representatives and let them know what we think. And then I give a list of absurd ways to contact them. But the fact is, we have to do this all the time to let them know that this kind of thing is not going to fly. Now, a while back, I did a show asking the question of, do us as the gun community reach out to liberal gun owners? And I took a lot of flack for even asking that question. And since all of this has happened, I've been doing a lot of thinking about it, and I still think that we need to try to do some winning of hearts and minds, but we also need to do it without capitulating to them, without bowing to what they want to do, what the anti-gunners want. I don't know how we change someone's mind who is a quote-unquote liberal Second Amendment supporter, because frankly, I don't think such a thing can truly exist. I don't think that you can vote for an anti-gun politician and consider yourself pro-Second Amendment. You might like guns, absolutely. You might like only certain guns, absolutely. You might love your granddaddy's shotgun. You might love your grandpa's deer rifle. You might love your dad's 1911. But them AR-15s, why, we don't need them. We remember, was it last week, guys? The fellow out in Oregon or wherever it was that wrote the piece about the gun nut thing. I think it was Friday that I read that. He was in one of the a contestant for Moron of the Week.
Ultimate FUD.
Yeah, the Uber FUD. Those people are out there. So we have to somehow reach these people and get them to understand that, they keep using that word, but it doesn't mean what they think it means. You know, they keep using the phrase pro 2A, but it doesn't mean what they think it means. Because if you're voting for people whose stated intention is to infringe on the Second Amendment, you're not pro Second Amendment. You might like guns, but you're pro something else. So the premise that, for instance, Joe Biden, the premise that you can vote for Joe Biden and be pro Second Amendment is flawed, because you're not voting pro Second Amendment. If you don't vote 2A, you are not 2A. You know, matter of fact, I'm going to be reaching deep into my Spreadshirt shop. And no, this isn't a, well, not much of a shameless whore shill thing. But I'm going to be reaching into my Spreadshirt shop here and buying me this hat right here that I designed a while back before the election. So I can tell these people this. If you don't vote 2A, then you ain't 2A. As a means to start a discussion, not as a means to vilify them, because I don't think you win anybody's hearts and minds by turning them into a villain. I don't think you win anybody's hearts and minds by telling them how stupid they are, by telling them what a piece of shit they are. Even if you think they are, you don't win a heart and mind by doing that. And that's what we're in, folks. That, you know, we're in a battle for people's hearts and people's minds. We are trying to win this culture war. And, you know, I'm going to be buying my hat there, so, and wearing the damn thing around, so I can start this conversation to explain not so much explain, but to ask questions to promote them to think about it, because that's really what you want to do. You don't want to tell, because you can tell somebody the answers, you can tell somebody your opinion all day long, and it can go in one ear and out the other. But if you ask questions, that engages their brain and forces them to think. So to me, it's a question of asking, you know, did Joe Biden say X, Y, and Z? Is Joe Biden trying to do X, Y, and Z? Yes, Trump did this, that, and the other thing. He allowed bump stocks to go the way of the dodo. You know, he didn't push for gun reform, true gun law reform, like the National Reciprocity and the Hearing Protection Act. All of that, but you know, we're past Donald Trump right now, and we're on Joe Biden, and Joe Biden campaigned on a platform of gun control. If you voted for him, you knew that he was anti-gun, then the 2A isn't what you vote on. Then you are not pro Second Amendment. You're pro something else, whatever it is. Or maybe you were just orange man bad because Trump was mean and he made nasty tweets to people and you didn't like that. Hey, whatever. But don't kid yourself. If you don't vote 2A, you ain't 2A. And I think that we have to let people know that. I mean, I don't know. Am I completely off with this, guys?
What is the point of winning hearts and minds of these people?
What is the point? Because if we turn an enemy into an ally, then we have an ally. And I'm not saying, you know, hold on a second, Squib. I'm not saying that we want these people to come over and have coffee with us and marry our kids and all that crap. What I'm saying is, if we can get people to stop, who think they're pro-Second Amendment, to actually become pro-Second Amendment, then maybe they'll vote Second Amendment. And if they vote Second Amendment, then there's less danger to the Second Amendment. That's my thought processes there.
Okay, that won't happen. Next subject.
See, that's the thing, man.
Well, of course it won't happen if nobody fucking tries.
You see, I've behind the gun counter, I have ran into this past almost year and each other, People were stealing, people were looting and burning. That was the only reason why they bought a gun, because society was out of balance for a brief moment in time. So how are you going to change these people's minds? When I watched that chat tonight, the guy said, I voted for Biden because of social issues. What social issue has he solved in his political time in any office that he's held? Absolutely none. So don't give me this that you're pro 2A, you're a gun owner, but you voted for Biden for social issues. I know so many people that unfortunately underneath the Trump administration had more money in their pocket the past 4 years. Maybe not a whole hell of a lot, but more than what they saw the previous 8. I quit talking to liberals and anti-gunners for a reason, because they have an agenda, and their agenda is to follow the agenda of the Bidens of this world. And how you get them to come off that budget, when you find that medium, I'll listen. But what I listened tonight, costing my precious time that I could put into society to fight for the Second Amendment, to change somebody's opinion.
Well, here's the thing.
When you can't do it, when they won't change it.
Here's the thing, bro. And I've said this before. When I'm discussing with someone who has that opposite viewpoint, I never, ever, 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 ever go into that discussion thinking I'm going to change that person's mind, even in the long run. I'm not talking to that person. I mean, I'm talking to that person, but my audience is the third party who's observing this, who might be sitting on the fence and teetering one way or the other. That's the
Those
person.
people don't exist.
That's
Those
the person
people
that I'm talking
don't exist.
to. I believe they do. I
Where
absolutely
the fuck have they been,
do.
Budget? Where have they been?
Where have they been?
There's lots
I
of
couldn't tell
moderates
you.
out there who don't stand for a damn thing. They don't. They don't stand for a thing. They're not allies either. Some of them say they're pro 2A too. I'm not saying you've got to be some sort of hardcore conservative, always vote Republican, blah, 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 blah. But we have been vilified for decades. Conservatives, pro-Second Amendment people. And we have done everything we can to appease these people. And all they do is keep taking and taking and taking.
Who's
now,
talking appeasement?
You are.
I'm not talking appeasement on shit. I'm talking the fact that you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. I'm talking the fact that you talk to people, that you try to have a discussion with people, that you try to educate somebody, that you be a good ambassador to try to change minds, because you cannot force anyone to do it.
I am a good ambassador, but fuck those people, and I can do both.
Yeah, I don't.
Because I'm law-abiding. I'm a good ambassador because I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just spouting something I heard some big YouTube channel that doesn't know shit say, actual facts and experience. I'm a good ambassador because I don't try to start the fights, despite the fact that I'm irascible. But I'm irascible because I'm past fed up. I was fed up 10, 15 years ago. We have been giving and giving and giving, and all they want to do is take and take and take.
And I'm not saying we give them a fucking thing.
Nice, and they are now
and I am not saying we give them a fucking thing. We don't give another inch. We don't give up anything, any of our rights. We never give up any of our rights. Fuck that and the horse it rode in on. But we cannot afford to ignore the people who might be on the margin. We cannot afford to alienate the people who aren't the hard right. We cannot afford to alienate the people who aren't the hard left. We cannot afford to alienate the center, because that, whether you admit it or not, is where the majority of the people are. We have to convince those people through the expression of our ideas that our ideas are right. Period. We cannot just say, fuck you and the horse you rode in on if you didn't vote the way I did.
Didn't say that.
Sorry, I had to take a drink there.
I couldn't count high enough.
sorry.
Yeah, I was just counting all the F-bombs, and I couldn't count that fast.
That's
So
all right.
if
I'm
guys-
not monetizing these chats anyway, so I don't care.
Okay.
You're not the first one or the only one to keep talking about this mythical center. All these people in the middle, all these people on the fence, they don't freaking exist. And all these people say, well, I wasn't pro-Second Amendment a couple of years ago, and if you had talked to me like that, I would have never joined you. Then I don't want you. I don't want you. Because you ain't got what it takes to fight. You ain't got what it takes to fight to begin with. I'm not here to convert one damn person. I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you why I do what I do. I'll tell you what the law is, and I'll tell you what's been going on if you've had your head in the sand. You do with it what you will. Those who want to convert are no better than the liberals who want to take away our liberties. They are trying to convert all of America into a socialist utopia, into this Marxist country, into a Marxist country.
Here's the thing, Squib. Here's the thing. The anti-gunners are doing everything they can to recruit more people. We need to do the same. They cannot be unopposed.
There's nobody
we need to convert people.
There's nobody to recruit. The reason
bullshit.
people get on YouTube and they lose their
shit.
The reason they get on YouTube and lose their shit is because they want to get the lazy people up off their couch and make money. Okay? There's nobody to recruit. And
bullshit.
You cannot expect somebody else out there who really is
you know who we need to be recruiting? The younger people, the younger generation, the ones that haven't formed their political opinions yet, the ones that have either haven't started or have barely started voting. By the time they're our age, that's totally different. They've decided one way or the other. We need to be recruiting the younger people into the pro-Second Amendment fold, and we don't do that by calling them fucking idiots if they vote for somebody else. Maybe they fucked up and made a mistake. Hey, guess what? I voted for Bill fucking Clinton. I'm far and away not a fucking liberal. I'm far and away from being an anti-gunner. I voted for Bill Clinton. I fucked up. I had a change of heart. Why? Because I had discussions with people. Why? Because I read magazine articles, because I read news articles, and when the internet became a thing, I read internet posts. That changed my mind. So don't tell me these people don't fucking exist, Squid, because I used to be one.
See, that's
a bunch of you guys. Where in the fuck have you been for the past 3-4 decades? Where have you been? Where the fuck have you been? Suddenly, right after Sandy Hook, everybody woke up. What were you doing before then? What the fuck? Oh, I was for those people, and you're so mean, and I wouldn't try to. Here's some tissues.
See, the thing is, Budget, you have a different mentality in mind than the people that you want to try and convince. And it's really, and it just as you work in it, it's just as bad trying to guide children. Yeah. I mean, I've got 4 of my own, and it's hard to guide them. I'll give you this example. When all this stuff started to happen, right at the beginning, how far back was that? It seems like decades.
It has been decades.
Right? Talking to my friends that freaked out, calling me for guns, calling me for gun advice, calling me on the process to buy a firearm, and then when you give them that information, and this is what turns me off to these people. When you give them that information and then you turn around to them and say, look, there's another aspect to gun ownership. And the other aspect to gun ownership is to fight for your right to keep that ownership.
Absolutely.
And that's why you don't vote for, whoever. And this is why, and then, it goes south from there with these people. And these people are either younger than me or they're my age. And you trying to explain to them, like I was called a radical tonight. I'm not a radical because I scream and yell and I rant and rave. I'm just passionate about what the Second Amendment. Where I was, Squid? I was in a different country. Where I was after that? I was on a ball field trying to do some kind of dream that would never come to fruition, that I never understood that was never going to happen, and kept pursuing that. But when that all ended, then I was robbed at gunpoint. Then it changed my mind. I'm never going to be a professional athlete. You know, I'm never going to be the father that I envisioned being when my kids were born. But there's one thing I can be, and that's a strong activist of why we have our freedoms, why we have these rights, why they were implemented, why these people of yesteryears put them into play. And that's how I see it. I have tried to talk to these people. There was a time where I had hope for some, but guess what happened? After everything kind of calmed down and there wasn't huge, widespread, well, I shouldn't say huge, widespread, but pockets of craziness going on and it's all died down, those people have kind of melted back. They've melted back into their same stand. And you saw it. I saw it tonight on that cast on that podcast or the YouTube stream.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna exacerbate all my energy on changing people's political perspective. But what I would really love to change is their ability to see how important these rights are.
That's it.
And give them examples of what happens when you go on a forum back in the day, or you look at Instagram or YouTube and you look at these big guys' accounts and you see the people from Canada, you see the people from Brazil, you see the people from other countries that don't have these liberties, these rights, these freedoms, these expressions of how to make ourselves and mold ourselves into the society and into the people that make up this country. And I'm just really tired of it. And when I hear that from somebody who says they're pro 2A and then says a company that really shows that they're pro 2A, that they're not going to bend to cancel culture, to hatred of what you just said, people voting for one party or another, and then watch these huge talking heads crap on us, and then watch these huge YouTubers throw out videos like 5 minutes ago and say, oh, Biden's coming for your guns. Here it comes. Here it comes. It's always been coming. You guys are older than me. You guys already knew this was happening. You know,
I first started paying attention to this in the late 80s, early 90s. Not so much in the late 80s. You know, I was in high school then, but really in the early 90s. And that's why I said my very first presidential election, I was 18 years old. I got seduced by Bill Clinton because he was one slick sumbitch. And then I started paying attention to this. You know, my dad, he always hunted. He always liked guns and stuff. But, you know, he was one of those AR-15s, big deal. You know, those are ugly, man. Look at this nice, beautiful wooden steel gun. You know, what are you going to hunt with an AR-15 and all that good shit? So that's where I was growing up. But when I became an adult and I started paying more attention to these things, you know, I realized where, and I had, you know, conversations with older guys who got it. And that changed my mind from that, you know, the futtery, I guess, into something more. And that's what I'm saying we need to get people like that to realize, because then we turn them from someone who doesn't give a shit one way or the other into somebody who cares.
Okay, and that's where I disagree. We turn them. I recently did a video, respect is earned, not given. Respect is earned, not given. You want to be 2A, you don't know where to start, you don't know what to do, you're scared of guns, you don't know anything about guns, but you believe this is important. You come to me and you want it. You come to the guy you know that is pro 2A and you want it. You don't half-heartedly do it. You know, maybe you either do it or you don't. And you go to other people for their opinions, for their experience, for their knowledge. You do some research on your own. You start doing critical thinking and you make the choice on your own. If you make the choice on your own, you may stay in this fight for your entire life because the fight is never going away. But if somebody recruits you, if somebody forces you, if somebody cons you, if somebody coerces you, and
That's
one
not what I'm
day,
talking about.
well, that's what it is. That's what it is. Budget. That's what
I'm
it
talking.
is.
I'm talking education because people don't know what they don't know. If you understand what I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea.
Don't listen.
I had no idea that I wasn't pro 2A until it was explained to me that, oh yeah, just because you like guns, just because you go hunting, just because you know this, that, and the other, doesn't mean you're pro 2A. This is what pro 2A means. Not backing down an inch, even though you don't give a shit about AR-15s, because I got to tell you, for years I didn't. Even though you don't give a shit about AR-15s, not backing down and not giving that stuff up, because that's part of the Second Amendment. And if you're for the Second Amendment, you're for all the Second Amendment. I didn't know that until it was explained to me. But then once that got presented to me, it was like, aha, that's right. Once it was explained to me that, you know, part of, you know, the Second Amendment isn't about hunting. The Second Amendment has other philosophical underpinnings to it. It's about defense of oneself. It's about defense of freedom against tyranny from your own government. You know, it's people don't. There are, Squib, whether you believe it or not, there are people out there who don't understand that. And that's what I'm talking about. The younger people that need to be told these things, need to be educated these things so they can come to that.
Comes down to parenting. And if you're a half-ass parent, then you never told your kids that. Like you never told your kids about
right.
other things.
And a half-ass parent ain't gonna do it. Somebody has to.
You know what? No. I think I know what it is. Other than just being in a foul fucking mood from shoveling snow all night, and it's not a good idea for me to be on air because I'm ready to tear anybody's head off over anything. These are the kinds of videos and shows that I don't like as a pro Second Amendment person. Because you're telling me you're not doing a good enough job. You're not
you're not doing a good enough job.
What your show is for the idiot out there on the couch eating their Cheetos going, yeah, I want to keep my AR-15. Ma, I need more meatloaf. Your video is for that. It's not for me. I shouldn't have come on.
I like meatloaf.
Jesus Christ. And no, G-Webs, this is not scripted. We are not watching a rom-com.
No. I get what you're saying, Budget, but I mean, it's so hard to convey our message nowadays with the way social media platforms are doing it. We got to find a way around it.
Because we're losing the culture war.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. You know, when I see these people that have a really big reach and they totally, you know, flip around and they crap on a company that is standing for the Second Amendment, that is letting people understand where they stand, and they get crapped on by these people that have a really long reach. Like this guy's saying, like, he's trained all kinds of people in society. But when you have that mentality where we have to accept stuff, we don't have to accept anything. What we have to accept in reality is we have to be a free person. We're never going to control everything in life. And that's what makes life special, is because the unpredictability of it, and the consequences and the rewards we get from it. The younger generation, they're turning on news cycles that are just, you know, ignorant to the fact, or have an agenda to you know, put this kind of stuff in the minds. I mean, a lot of it falls on politicians. I don't want to always blame the 2A culture for its inability. it falls on politicians. It falls on us as just people voting the same people in time after time. And a lot of it has to do with a lot of people don't step up. A lot of people don't step up and run for stuff. A lot of people don't step up and voice their concerns. You know, oh, this is the status quo. Well, let's change that status quo. But it's really hard to change now. I say it all the time. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm more of a constitutionalist, you know, libertarian, you know, leave me alone and I'll leave you alone concept. You know, but yet the vicious cycle continues to repeat itself, but we're doing it as a society as a whole, not as gun owners or non-gun owners, but as a society as a whole. And that cycle needs to stop and change. That's why I say vet your candidates. That's why you say call your Congress critters. Make these people aware. The younger generation isn't understanding that. They're understanding that Joe Biden at this point in time is going to sign a free ride into law. And that's not how society is supposed to work. It's never worked that way.
Yeah.
That's why welfare is such a failing system. That's why Social Security is a failing system, because the politicians make a failing system, prop it up, and then reap the benefits like they do Social Security. I mean, there's so many aspects and dynamics to it. I understand it, and I fly off the handle. You know, people are going to look at that Instagram video and be like, he's crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm just passionate. But I'm passionate.
That's what I see. For the record, Ro, that's what I see. And for the record, that's what I see with Squib, too. I know where he's coming from because this is goddamn important.
No, it's frustrating is what it is. I don't need somebody to tell me how to be pro 2A. Been doing it, know how to do that.
Do
I don't need
it your own way, brother.
I don't need somebody to tell me I suck at it because I don't really care about their opinion. And I don't need somebody to tell me that I'm not doing enough. And I'm not going to tell that to somebody else either.
Nope. Listen, man, if you think that's where I was coming from with you, totally not the case, man. I apologize if it came across that way.
Do not apologize. That is a sign of weakness. We need to stop apologizing for everything. That is what they've done to us. Do you not understand? This is how they get a hold of our kids in school. This is how they get a hold of the media and the news and everything else. We're bad, we're wrong, we can't stand for anything. Stand for something. I'd rather you tell me fuck you to my face than apologize and not mean it. I'd rather you stand for something even if I disagree with you, but you're passionate about it, than just be this flip-flop, this moderate, somebody doesn't stand for something. I have more respect. There are times where I have argued with you guys and some of my other friends on these shows, and we have not agreed when the show was over, and I'm still your friend the next day, and I still respect you. You're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change yours, and that's fine. But I see that passion. I see that fire, and I know you're going to be there in 10, 20, 30, 40 years when we're still fighting for this, frickin' Cheeto Man on the couch still isn't. But he's holding his AR-15 going, thanks for doing the work, guys.
One thing David Ramirez points out, he says, you might not think it, but unfortunately too many people think that they're free. Freedom is right. It takes time. I grew up in a household that told me vote for Democrats, therefore the poor. And that's where I was until I looked into it and saw what the actuality was. So yeah, I'm with you. Well, you know, on this note, folks, we're going to go ahead and close this one out. Thanks for coming by and watching this on a Monday night. You know, you guys could have been doing anything, enjoying your time after you get home from work to kick back and put your feet up and watch a boob tube, but you're here with this. So, yeah. I appreciate it so much. Roll call, is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Parting shots? Anything you want to plug?
I hate snow, and I hope it melts away soon.
I can agree with that. Squib, is there anything you'd like to leave us with, sir?
Double fuck snow, and I shouldn't have come on the show, but thanks for the invite anyhow.
Hey, man. I love your passion. That's why you're here, brother. You know, I know where you're coming from. I'm not taking it the wrong way.
Nah, it was poor judgment on my part. And triple fuck Snow.
Gotcha. They were wondering if they heard your last words out there. They thought maybe you might have had a stroke or something and collapsed. So they're like, oh, Squib lives. Good. So it's all good. All right, folks. Thank you out there in the chat for being here. You know, I appreciate it. I enjoy you being part of this conversation. Let's keep having them, guys. Remember, we need to make sure that we tell our Congress critters and elected rep, blah, blah, blah. Maybe Budget will learn to speak one day. We need to tell our Congress critters and elected representatives what we think. Let them know that their plans for our gun rights are not acceptable. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, bicycle messengers, drum messages, whatever we have to do to let them know what we think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight. And remember, folks, if you don't vote 2A, then you ain't 2A. Have a good one.